Welcome to this overview of the MSc in Applied Bioinformatics program that we run here at Cardiff University. My name is Richard Annie, and I'm the program director for this master's program. So, what's bioinformatics? So, why have you come along to watch this um, overview? So, bioinformatics is the use of computational, statistical, and data science methods to analyze biological data. So, in modern biological research, we generate vast data sets that include genome sequences, gene expression data sets, epigenomic and multiomic data sets, protein sequence data, and some population level data. And bioinformatics provides the tools that you need to process, analyze, and importantly, interpret these data to generate some level of biological insight. So in this program, it's the Applied Bioinformatics program, and we're going to be applying the computational methods to solve these biological and biomedical problems. Rather than just focusing on theory alone, you will, if you join this program, learn how to analyze real genomic datasets, learn how to apply established analytical tools and pipelines to your data, learn how to interpret your results in a biological or clinical context, and learn how to translate your computational findings into some meaningful scientific insight. The emphasis of this program is on practical data analysis and interpretation. So this is a program that's been shaped by the community. It is a new program, um, although we have been running some form of bioinformatics program for over 2 decades now. Um, and I've been leading this program or the previous version of this program since 2018. But over the last couple of years, we've been listening to students and gathering feedback on their learning experiences and our teaching structure. We've tried to listen to them and they've told us about how they would like more support for clearer skill development. Um, and that's linked in how the assessment designs have been developed. We've listened to our alumni and they've given us insight into how the program has prepared them for careers and identified skills that they found most valuable in the workplace. And that's allowed us to look back and see the skills that maybe we're not focusing on enough and incorporate those into the new program. We've also listened to employers, and the programs have always been developed with employers in mind, especially the academic employer for individuals who are looking to go into a research career, a research academic career. But we've also been talking to other employers to understand the skills that are required as a data scientist working in genomics or in healthcare analytics. So we've tried to incorporate all those elements into this new program. Our job is to prepare you for the future. The aim of the program is to develop graduates who can work confidently with large biological data sets, can apply scientific methods to real world biological problems, can critically evaluate and interpret complex results, and communicate their insight effectively. Um, we don't expect that the data sets that we show you over the year that you'll be with us will be the same data sets or the same type of data that you might experience in 1, 2, 3, 4 years post graduation. So we need to give you the skills to be able to um, pick up a new data set, a new method, and be able to carry that forward. It's you're learning how to work with bioinformatics tools, not how to work with a bioinformatics tool. So you're going to leave with technical, analytical, and professional skills that are required for a modern genomics or data science career. What kind of skills are you going to develop? There's going to be a number of transferable data science skills. So programming and scripting for data analysis, statistical modeling and data visualization, data management, and how to incorporate reproducible research practices into your work, version control, how to critically evaluate an analytical tool and the methods that are a part of that tool, how to communicate your science through reports, presentations, and data storytelling, um, how to project manage and problem solve, because not all projects run smoothly, and how to use bioinformatic tools and high performance computing. Um, the high performance computing system that we use here in Cardiff does mirror a number of the UK HPCs, but the general principles will mean that that should be transferable to whichever platform you move on to after graduating from Cardiff. You're also going to develop some domain-specific skills. Some of these, not all of them, depending on your choices within the program. So they might include analysis of genomics and multi-omic datasets, next-generation sequencing processing, and interpretation, working with GWAS data and applying genetic epidemiology approaches, looking at transcriptomics and epigenomic analysis of protein structure and function using some of the latest AI tools, how to model complex biological networks to predict biomedical processes, or maybe how to the development of reproducible computational workflows such as Nextflow. Now you might get some or most of these depending, as I said, on the choices that you make when you come and do the modules you choose to do as part of the program. Let's talk about our learning culture. Our program is designed around student-centered learning environment. We focus on supporting students from a diverse academic background. And we do this through embedded academic skill sessions. So our students might come from a life sciences, they might come from a computer sciences, or they might come from a mathematics background. And depending on your undergraduate program, you may not have been exposed to some of the assessment types that we run. You may never have written a large technical report, maybe never written a dissertation um, before, especially not at the size that is required for a master's dissertation. So it is our job and our role to try and help you bridge any of those skill gaps, and we embed that within the program. It's not something we say go off and learn elsewhere. We include that in the program and entwine it into how we mark and how we set our assessments. One of the key things of the culture is helping you develop confidence in your computational and analytical skills. We find a lot of the students coming onto the program, this is the area that they tend to find the most challenging, or they tend to lack the most confidence. And so we aim to help you build your peer support and your confidence in these new skills that you're going to develop. You're going to learn through active engagement with real data sets. One of the mantras is we want you to get your hands dirty with the data. Students in the past have commented that they didn't realize that they spend a lot of time cleaning data. That's actually one of the biggest chunks of a data scientist role, to make sure your data is clean and ready to be able to interpret and analyze and to give you the right answer. This is part and parcel of being a data scientist. So we're going to give you those data sets to learn those skills. We're going to, within your cohort, hopefully build a supportive cohort with strong peer learning and collaboration. One thing to remember when you do a master's program is that we don't allocate X percentage of distinctions, merits, and passes. If you meet the criteria of the master's program, you will achieve. So you're not competing with your peers. You are working alongside one another to hopefully support each other in a very collaborative way, because that's how you're going to work as a data science in wherever you're that your graduate skills take you. In the sessions, we don't tend to run lectures. We work to have teaching sessions, and students are encouraged in those sessions to ask questions. Otherwise, yeah, we may as well just give you lots of videos like this today and say, go off and watch all the videos. But you're in a room with people who are familiar with the tools, who have had the same challenges that you might be coming across. So ask some questions. We're going to give you data to explore, and we're going to hopefully, over time, develop your independence as researchers. So you're confident and comfortable um, in applying your skills to new data sets and new questions. I've kind of alluded to this about how we teach before. So our module are taught using a block teaching model, allowing you to focus deeply on one topic at a time. So you'll have a 5 week block where you'll work on one of the modules. The structure of the teaching is common throughout the different modules, and we'll look at that a little bit in a couple more slides. And the assessments are designed in such a way as they're authentic. We can ask you to do things that you do in a job. Why have we chosen a block teaching model? Well, it allows you to develop your understanding step by step. It allows you to apply skills immediately through practical work, and it allows you to focus on high quality and high value assignments. What we found when we overlap modules before is that you've got to make a choice about which of the assessments or the learning you focus on. And that means you're distracted, either fully on one project or 50-50. And so we wanted to make sure that you just get to learn and focus on a specific topic at once. I'm going to show you the program structure now. So the blue modules, Data Science 1, Data Science 2, Research Skills, and Dissertations, everyone will do. These data science are all 20 credits. All these modules are 20 credits apart from your dissertation, which is a 60 credit module. Some of you will choose this peach stream where you'll learn about next generation sequencing. And the first one is looking at genomics and variant calling. Association and biological interpretation, how you might use some genetic epidemiology approaches to understand um, a disease. So this is GWAS and post-GWAS analysis. You'll come back and do research skills, and then the next generation sequencing to focus on transcriptomics and epigenomic analysis. Another cohort may choose to do the transcriptomics module, which kind of brings in elements of these two modules. But you will also then focus on protein structure and function, and using, again, I mentioned before, using some of the new AI tools to understand about protein structure and function. And finally, moving into a module that looks at systems biology and predictive modeling. So how do different systems work? This is a typical module structure. So we've got 5 weeks here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every morning for 3 hours on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, for the first 3.5 weeks, you'll have a session. There's 14 taught sessions. And so you'll have 14 blocks of teaching there. You'll notice in the afternoons we've got these tea sessions, and what these are extended learning. These are tutorials where effectively what we're doing, we're providing a space for you to continue your learning, and somebody will be in the room not to teach you new elements, but maybe to answer a couple of questions that you may have from that earlier morning, or you'll be able to extend with some of the practical applications. After 3.5 weeks, all of your assignments will be set, and then you've got just over a week until you are due to submit all your assignments. So you've got a week to focus on working on the practical elements of the assignment. The assignments that we do, they're non-exams. They're designed to reflect the types of work carried out in research, healthcare, genomics, and data science roles. So you may be required to produce a technical report to analysing genomics data, working on a bioinformatics pipeline or some code for some data analysis, maybe creating a how-to guide for a bioinformatics tool, or you might be generating a data analysis portfolio, and you will then be required to submit that and maybe do a Viva to discuss what you've identified in your portfolio. So the focus is on demonstrating practical and analytic competence as opposed to retention of facts. So we're not doing those kind of exams that I don't believe are conducive to what we're trying to get you to learn through the program. We want you to have the skills of knowing where to look for answers. When it comes to those authentic assessments, how are we going to get you to present those to us? So an important part of the program is learning how to communicate the complex data. And so you're going to gain experience in producing scientific posters, doing research presentations to a research team or to your peers, writing technical documentation around how you've applied a scientific approach or how you've got a package working, how you've got a tool working. And you might also be required to write structured analytic reports. These are all going to be things that you would have to do in a career of research, healthcare, or data science. And they all build towards writing that dissertation, which is ultimately the largest technical document, the largest structured analytic report that you will do on the program. So how would you apply for this program? Well, we take applicants from the undergraduate degrees in life sciences, mathematics or computing. The admissions criteria is that we're looking for undergraduates to have an honours degree awarded with a 2-1 or equivalent. If English isn't your first language, we are requesting an IELTS certificate with a score of 6.5 in all subskills or equivalent. And as part of the application process, you're going to have to write a personal statement that we'll review. And what we want to know from this is your starting point and your motivation. We want to know why you want to follow the program, what benefits you hope to gain from it, and what skills and experience you possess. And we've asked you 3 specific questions around computing, statistics, and also your understanding of biology and the molecular biology that is the foundation for some of the data sets that we're working with. Now, the reason we do this is that, importantly, when it comes to things like computing, this is a bioinformatics program. You are going to be writing code. So that might be Bash, that might be R, that might be Python, or a mixture of all. Now, if you're not familiar with the syntax of writing code, or even how to write code, or have done that in your undergraduate programs, this is something that you really need to consider. Normally, people who come on the program have done some coding. They've submitted a script, they've adapted a script, and so they're aware of what the bulk of the work is. If your computing comes from pull down menus, maybe working with Google and Excel, and have not used any of the coding languages I've mentioned before, they will seem very foreign to you. Then this might not be the most suitable program for you without doing some pre-work and going off and doing some short courses just to get familiar with what coding's about. I've flagged here that as part of Cardiff University's programs, our alumni, so if you've done an undergraduate degree at Cardiff, you will be able to apply for a discount to the student fees. There are specific terms and conditions that apply to that offer. Importantly, when you're thinking about doing a master's program, one of the things that you might ask is what kind of jobs do I get? And this is based on the previous Masters in Applied Bioinformatics programs, because as I say, this is a new offering. And looking at the cohorts that we have data for, our graduated cohorts from the 18-19 through to the 24-25 cohorts. And over 90% of our students end up working in a role that I would describe as data science. Now, about 30% go off and do further studies, so they go off and do a PhD, and a lot of students will continue their studies here at Cardiff or across other universities in the UK. We've had students who are in Manchester, Leeds, Edinburgh, Cambridge. So we do and King's College. So our students do go far and wide around the UK. People might go, actually, I don't really want to do a PhD, but want to continue doing bioinformatics. So take up a research associate role, so an academic research role. And about 30% of our students will do that as their first choice to see whether it's something they want to. Um, Maybe they'll do a PhD later on. And we've seen a number of students graduate into PhDs after a couple of years of being a research associate. Sorry, a research assistant. A number of our students will go off and work in healthcare or clinical genomics, working for the NHS or their affiliate services. And some people just go into various parts of industry where they're going to use data science. So that could be in policy, education, um, and so there's a variety. Now, the others, the 10% of alumni that generally the ones that I can't track down. So we get really high graduate employability from these programs because we're teaching you skills that are useful, that the employers want. Now I'm going to sell Cardiff a bit. Cardiff is a great place to, it is a great place to live. I moved down to Cardiff in the mid 90s, and since then, since I did my PhD here, I travelled around the world in various continents, and I've come back to Cardiff to settle because I found it's a great big small city. Um, Over 6% of our cohort, our in-person cohort, still call Cardiff home. So they've come to Cardiff to do their degree and they settled here. So I would recommend if you're still thinking about the different places you want to visit, come and spend a day in Cardiff, walk around the city, walk down some of the arcades, and think, could I live here? I'm going to finish off this presentation and I'm just going to put up some quotes from our alumni, just to give you an idea of how our students have felt about the culture here at Cardiff and the approach of our course. We try to be a course that's student centric. We try to mentor our students. We try to support you and we try to provide an environment that hopefully um, you can be encouraged to learn and learn with us. So I'm just going to give you a couple of the quotes from our alumni. So thank you very much for your time in watching this presentation. If you have any questions about the program, you can either send emails to either myself or Georgina Menzies, um, who is the co-director of the program. And um, hopefully this kind of gives you some food for thought about doing a Master's in Applied Bioinformatics here at Cardiff University. So again, thank you for your time, and I will just, in the final slide, there's a QR code that will take you to any details that you might need to know about applying for the program. Again, thank you for your time.